Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to HendosHotTopics. I hope you're doing well. Now today I'm joined by Ryan O'Connor from, you may know as the Stag Roar Podcast. How's it going, brother?
Bloody awesome, man.
Nice to finally meet in person, bro.
Yeah, it's pretty good, eh?
Yeah.
The old positive side of social media is you meet legends, and
Yeah,
then in a small country like New Zealand, you just can rock on up and go, hey, what's happening? Obviously, a bit of Saturday football for you, but
Yeah.
made it work.
Yeah, you guys don't know that, but I was a bit thrown off today because it's the first time I've done an in-person one in the HHT setup for a while, so had to rush back from football. I was a bit disorientated, but we got it sorted. Ryan's here today and we're going to have an amazing chat. Now, first off, brother, open and honest, how are you going in general?
Pretty excited,
Yep.
actually. Got 2 weeks left in my current job, and then moving to Taupo.
Yep.
To get on the road to something I've been working through since I left originally the people that I work for at the moment back in 2018, when I had a year over in Australia working. I'm an optometrist, so working over there. Sort of came back to Hawke's Bay with the intention of becoming a director of an optometry practice, but a few things had a few hiccups, and so that meant I couldn't really stay in Hawke's Bay anymore because I had separated. So my daughter now lives in Pukekohe, so made that work from Hawke's Bay for a year. But now I sort of moved to Tokoroa, and unfortunately that didn't really work out the direction I wanted. Had some bit of a personality clash, and actually sort of realised to myself that the model that they run is not really what I want to do. I want to be quite a small, tight-knit, independent sort of practitioner that you can be dynamic, and if you see something that you think would work, you can try it out and test it, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't matter, but you can be a bit more dynamic. Whereas a big company of 10 practices, you sort of got to appease the masses, I guess. Yeah. And I said I went and came up here to do a few podcasts, and it only turned out being 2, but last night talking with Alexi Rolling Russia on his Versus Everything podcast, so we got into talking about personality types, and I think if they had personality, or found out my personality type is sort of a commander type, ENFJ, I sort of like to correct what I see.
Yeah. They
wouldn't have employed me because I don't think that's the sort of type of person that they want working in a 10 practice optometry, down in Tokoroa. I was wanting to do big things and try to affect change when it comes to diabetes and community health matters, and work with practitioners, bring in dietitians. I like doing concussion recovery, so again working with occupational therapists, neurologists up there at Waikato, where it takes a good hour and a half to get yourself into Waikato Hospital, and so to have an outreach down there in Tokoroa, I thought we could have done some big stuff. But moving to Taupo, so we'll start working with a new DHB in the meantime until this health rollout restructure will happen. So that's going to be very interesting, but cool to be a part of and see if it makes any difference to the care that can happen with people's eyes and people's brains and people's health. And to be able to sort of have influence on it, and my ideas and my feedback to go directly to the providers and work with them and work back and forth. I'm pumped about it because, as I said, my personality type is someone that wants to lead and be out there. And finally, after being in practice with various different companies for the last 8 years, got the nod. So it's been a bit of a long road for a dream that I had since I was 12. I remember drawing designs for O'Connor optometrists back then. I used to draw designs of like the Lotto logo, that cool sort of S thing, and Adidas, and I even submitted a picture I did of some red and white and blue boots to the Lotto office back in the day. And they're like, oh, that's pretty cool. And they sent me a whole bunch of the Football Kings stickers and a beanie. I had that for ages, that Football Kings beanie. It's probably kicking around somewhere.
I've got a Kings jacket in there.
Yeah. Back Winton Roofer days. Yeah. And so I had like football kits hanging from my ceiling, and this O'Connor optometrist logo back in the day. So I probably won't call it that, but might stick with Taupo Vision Care. But I'm super pumped. Got got to sell my house, which is a bit, it'll happen, but given current market conditions, it's a bit sort of, it's not so straightforward as it was 6 months ago, is it?
Now, 12 years old, I want to ask, bros, do you solely believe that if you actually have, you have a vision in place and you want to achieve that, to stick to it?
A little bit.
Yeah.
It's been bumpy. Like, you always see those graphs of like what's success like, and that's how I sort of got into the podcasting realm. I got into blogging. After I'd done 18 months of my first job working for Specsavers, and I was kind of like, oh, I don't fit this model. And, I had various sporting escapades. So like we were talking about playing National Youth League in football, playing Federation for Southern as well in the first year and the last year. So again, a bit of a bumpy ride, those middle 2 years not getting selected. The politics of certain coaches, and he only wants to select 3 people from Invercargill, and you're like, well, we are a whole region, mate. Yeah, surely we're selecting the best players, but never mind. And then the sort of head of football for Southern is in Invercargill, and then all of a sudden all our Southern guys get selected, and we're in the starting lineup, and you're like. But then I suppose that's just the other way around, isn't it? The politics of it working in our favour as opposed to against it. So that was rough. And then like I'd been a swimmer since I was 8, so I went to that was about the same. I went to a juniors meet when I was 8, missed out twice on the qualifying times, and then went in my last year again. Went to a Div 2s in the South Islands, and then the next year I went to a Div 1s up here in Auckland. At Waitakere there, and then after that I was like, I can't swim anymore, and went back and went to a Div 2s again, and actually won the 200 fly. It was so bizarre, not swimming for 6 months, and you come back and win the 200 fly in the Div 2 nationals. You're like, that's strange. But I sort of transitioned into water polo by that stage, and again that was like, it's the trouble with Invercargill, like small pond. You're a swimmer in year 9, and so you're like, get straight into the Southland under 16 team, and you come up here and you're playing against Marist, and they got Ben Afiaki and his older brother, and like Ben as a 13-year-old was pretty big then too, and I think we lost 21-0, and Frank, because I was fast on a turnover, I'd be blasting it down the pool, and end up in centre back, and I'm 13 weakling white guy, and I'm playing against a 16-year-old Samoan guy who's a man, and he just like ragdoll me. So they just like throw the ball into the hole. So it's kind of like basketball, where you have someone in the key, but you don't have to get out. And you just basically have a fight in there. And I remember he grabbed the front of my togs and just moved me around, and they threw it, and he just grabbed the ball with his other hand, spun around, smashed into the top of the net, and I like got up from the bottom of the pool gasping, and my gran was there to watch, and her husband had like produced lots of sports productions like Rugby World Cups and Olympics and stuff, and so he's watched lots of sport in his time. He's probably seen like the Olympic water polo and like underwater camera work and things like that, being like, oh, I know what that's going on there. Like we were just getting destroyed. But going through high school, like being a good swimmer, managed to get like a New Zealand secondary schools and under 18s trial, representing the South Island. So that was all like awesome. But then you like get to the next step, and you just like don't get there. So moving to Auckland, playing football, and go rock up to Central United, finally get a game off the bench, score a goal, don't get a game the next week, and just go, oh fuck,
what's the point?
What's the point? And like I said, that was a shit show week. Getting kicked out of a hall, basically realizing that you're not going to get into optometry in first year, but then I nearly did get into optometry in my first year, so that was kind of like, oh yeah, you might have what it takes, and then not getting in. It's like, oh shit, I've got to come up with another plan. Do I just like scrap it all and go be an engineer, or you still have to get into engineering, of course, so that would have been like 4 more years of uni, and it's like, it's only going to be 2 extra of the 5 that I planned to do, so I'll just carry on with the science. And then I started to like figure out how to study in uni and like learn stuff, regurgitate stuff, write good essays. And you didn't have that in NCAA, which was a shame and kind of annoying. But yeah, getting into a position where they were in Dunedin, they were like, well, you can do pre-honors. I'd changed to playing rugby. I was in the like pre-academy through the Polytech for rugby. I'd played my third year of playing rugby, I'd played a premier rugby game in Dunedin. I'd done all that, and it was like I was in the program to do honours in anatomy, and then I was like, well, maybe I'd do a rugby career and just go home and be a builder. So I had like a couple of backup plans.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember sitting down in January at my kitchen table in 2010, having this on-phone interview. So I've got my phone maybe on speaker and they're on conference call, no Zoom or anything, and just like sweating buckets. It was like a 20-minute or 15-minute interview, and I got off there and my like armpits were soaked. So that's when you know that like that's what you really want to do. Your like nervous system is like,
you're that worried about it.
Your nervous system is like this is the moment. I'd applied in Australia as well. Try to get into the optometry schools in Australia, and got in, and 4 years of optometry school to do it, and then you get to the end of that, and you're like, I didn't get honours in optometry, because you can get honours in optometry if you have a B+, and I was like 2 GPAs away from getting a B+, and you're kind of like, I'm an average optometrist is what you have in your head. I tried to get in the Southland Sevens team twice and being non-travelling reserve. You're like, I'm a average rugby player in your head. I never cracked it in football. I'm an average football player. Never quite cracked it in water polo. Average, just average for your standards.
I get you, bro.
Yeah. Because I think my standards were when I was 7, seeing Daniel Loader swim at the pool in Southland, going, that guy's got 2 Olympic gold medals and he's from just up the road in Dunedin. Mm-hmm. I want to be an Olympic athlete or, represent New Zealand. And, I had the Winner's Bible when I was about 10 or so, reading that. So I had this manila folder with goals and plans and, train all the time and, So it's a weird journey, and then it's you work in companies thinking that you're going to get brought into the management side of things and make decisions and influence decisions. So you've definitely got to have that passion and vision to keep going.
Yeah, bro, and no, but exactly like you're about to move to Taupo. Like, there's even like that is when you have those visions and those goals. There's moments where you do have to make sacrifices, and the moments you have to make decisions either for your happiness or decisions to make the next doors open, and that's a real make or break moment for people. Is it okay? Am I willing to make this choice or sacrifice, or like you said, move to a different city? Do I really want it? And it's if you take that leap of faith and you're like, yep, stuff it, I'm going to do it, bro. That could be the light switch for it to happen. And it's. I actually spoke about it with Will in the last episode, is you see a lot of those pictures with the miners underground, where there's a guy who finishes,
the gold part. Yeah,
like a mil away from the jackpot, and there's a guy who just goes and goes and goes. And that's why I asked if you want to achieve something, if you really want it, you have to stick with it. Is it because it's like that? It's Ryan and I were speaking about football off camera, and we're speaking about how he actually just said it then, how he didn't really quite crack football, and I felt that because pre-COVID, I was finally getting up there, and we spoke about there's always the managers in it that like to have it their way a bit more, and it's for me that was playing football since I was 5, working my ass off, losing like 15 kgs to get in the club I wanted, only playing probably about 4 or 5 games a whole season. Honestly, bro, that I lost my love for football, and then COVID hit, didn't play football for another 2 years. And I felt so lost, which is why I'm so grateful I had the podcast and the HHT family to really keep me on top of the water. Because without football, it's one of those things where it becomes your life, it becomes a part of you. And when you don't have it, you're like, shit, what do I do now? What am I meant to do now with my life?
Yeah, that's same with rugby. I've spoken, I think on Nick Beddar's podcast, I sort of had those transitions I talked about, like swimming, I'd given up swimming. But I went into playing water polo and I decided that I'm not going to get up 4 mornings a week and 3 afternoons a week and swim.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to be better at football.
Yeah.
Like, so with Southland and Southern Federation, our club comp was okay. We kind of had in the club I started in when I was 5. By the time I was about 11 or 12, we started playing morning grade age group, and then in the afternoon we'd play in like the Division 2 men's league. So compared to Auckland, you can imagine that the school level drops off quite fast. Yeah. And then, so then I started training with the Southland men's team that was playing in the Southern League, but not getting a spot in
opportunity,
a spot in the actual like representative
right.
side with the club. But the other club in town was like, "Okay, come play with us," which was good. But then the next year, as I said, I'd been training with the men's team. The next year, I ended up playing for the men's team. So I actually was going to Dunedin every other week. And so, training two nights a week and being away most Saturdays. So going to Dunedin, once up to Maru and once to Queenstown. So that was another reason why, like, hey, I can't keep swimming all that time, especially because we're doing Saturday morning trainings as well for swimming. And also like try to excel at football. So I gave that away, and I did like the team aspect of playing water polo as well. Like that was awesome. So we'd have water polo trainings on Monday nights, and we'd play on a Friday night, and then I think like October holidays we'd have a national tournament. So that was all good. Soccer was finished by then. We'd had school soccer and tournament week, so they didn't cross over. It was awesome. So yeah, I'd had that sort of mini retirement early on, leaving swimming, and then I came to Auckland and I was kind of, phased out of playing water polo, and like I said, changed to playing rugby. Dunedin really committed, so I'd left football behind.
Yeah.
And then when it came to rugby, like had the birth of my daughter, I'd been concussed the year before, but I really missed it. So then when we moved to Australia, I sort of found that as like, oh, how am I going to meet people in a brand new town? I was like, sports, that's how I meet people everywhere else. So I played over there. The quality wasn't good. The refereeing was questionable.
Because you're a Kiwi.
Oh, no. It was like, I rocked up to the first training, and the coach who coached the Brumbies, he was a good coach, goes to me, "Oh, every good flanker's a good lock." And I look, I'm used to playing with guys that play Super Rugby. Sam Kidd that's just played for the Highlanders. He's tall as hell. And I'm playing with flankers like Luke Jacobson and the Jacobson brothers. And, they're taller than me, and that's probably one of my limitations. Same playing sevens. Like you play sevens with guys that are tall,
bro.
And that's again the limitation. If you're going to be a forward, you should probably be like 6'2", and I'm 6 foot. So one of the factors that makes you miss out when New Zealand, everyone plays rugby.
100%.
So you can pick on the fundamentals and then make sure that the ones with the fundamentals are good players. So yeah, and then so I played lock over there, so that wasn't much fun. You couldn't influence the game. I like to think in any sport that I've played, I've been able to influence the game that I'm in. When I first went down to Southland and played that sevens tournament, when I was on the field, I felt that because I had experience in sevens, I had 4 years playing sevens, I felt like as a team we started to put things together, and in the sevens game, I was that forward that was the worker. Like, so I'd make sure that we got clean ball all the time. And like me and another guy came off the bench against Canterbury in our pool game, and we just like turned the game around, and I scored, and we ended up beating Canterbury in the pool play. And I was like, this is mean. But then when it came to going to the tournament, again back to the politics things, they've got all these young guys that are in the rugby academy that, we're going to the sevens tournament. We might as well bring some of these rugby academy guys in. And you're like, what the fuck? But it doesn't matter. It's just kind of like, you learn to deal with it and be honest with yourself and be happy with yourself. And yeah, the old like moving away from sports and your identity, I've kind of decided that you can use those skills and that dedication and that skill acquisition into many things. And I think that's why, especially not playing rugby anymore, it was like I really got quite dedicated to, hey, I want to run a business, and I want the way that I practice on optometry to be a reflection of the business that we like. Yeah, I want who I am to show through as part of the business. Yeah,
you wanted to, yeah. And so now I want to ask, bro, is where does the Stag Roar podcast come in? You know, what made you start that?
Yeah, so that was a continuation of blogging.
Yep.
So exploring success, what success looks like. As I said, you know, the metrics of my life were kind of this mediocre thing. And after uni, I did some psychotherapy, and it was like, oh, you need to sort out your... I didn't say it like that, of course. But, you know, you've got low self-esteem.
Yep.
To help your self-esteem, you need to treat yourself the way that if your mates were coming to you saying what you're saying, you'd be like, oh, come on, man, you're this awesome.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But when it comes to the same conversation in your head, you're like, man, you're a shitbag. You're just average. You're nothing. And it's like, and it was just like the simplest mind shift. You know, he gave me a couple of flow diagrams and, you know, the various sort of sports psychology, and I went on a thing called the Riley Young Leadership Award. Again, that addressed some psychological patterns and stuff like that. You know, looking at personality typing and how you deal with certain situations, and you know that moral compass and those standards that you hold for yourself. You know, how they reflect in what you do. That just kind of helps. So that was what I was sort of exploring by blogging, and then my ex was kind of looking at Gary Vee, and she figured out on iPhone that literally there's that app that's in the bottom corner of your home screen is a link to the world, and it's podcasting. So we'd been down Lake Okataina at a sort of a team building weekend for work, and on the way back she driven down and she like started playing Gary Vee's podcast in the car, and I was like, oh, this is shit hot. And I'd seen him being like, oh, you people should get on Anchor. You know, the future is voice. Turns out he's still saying that. It's good, eh? What a gig. You can say the same thing for 5 years. No, he doesn't say the same things. He's done talking about NFTs now. Yeah.
He's a TikTok mastermind now as well.
Well, that's the fun.
On TikTok?
Yeah. You on TikTok? Yeah. It's about gratitude. It's about gratitude. Yep. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So when I was listening to Gary Vee, it was Musically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was Musically.
Yeah. So when Jack Jensen from Misfits said, "No, you got to get on TikTok," and I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll believe you, man." I still had my 2 little videos that I made from Musically, and I literally just like logged in straight away and already had the account. Yeah. And I think that had like 2 views and 6 views over time. I'm still breaking the algorithm on TikTok. Eh? You're like, oh yeah, standard's at 5. You're like, it's the same. It's like the same thing. What's going on?
Yeah.
What did I do wrong? Yeah. So yeah, I was listening to Gary Vee. Download Anchor. The future is voice. So I was reading Dave Galbraith's. I don't even know what his book's called. And it was like, we're going into the finals season for rugby. So I started talking about like the practices I had, like journaling the game. Dave talks about this thing called moments of perfection. So you like, it's like a visualization tool.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah. He talks about like this thing of stacking bricks. So he has a pile, or at least he did, has a pile of bricks that he moves one brick at a time from one part of his yard to the other. Again, like with washing the dishes, it's just like, you know, being present in the moment, doing the task and being concentrated on the task, like that sort of stuff. So I was just kind of like making these 5-minute things. Talking about, I was also reading Tim Ferriss's Tools of Titans as well. And around the same time, I'd joined, semi-regrettably, but I learnt a lot of things, a multi-level marketing company with a ketone salt. So really good brand, really good product, but not the best way of distributing things. I don't think. Yeah, multi-level marketing, and it attracts same people that the NFT space. I think has attracted. Interesting agendas from the people that you interact with in that space, and so I really didn't like that, but I liked the product. So I'd started listening. Gary Vee's talking about how was it like jab right hook type stuff. I was like, well, maybe I could use a podcast to sell this instead of trying to rein in friends and things to front up with money and then sell some ketone salt drink that then means that you get money from them getting those sales. So this is rough. This is weird. I started listening to Joe Rogan. Heard Joe Rogan talk to this guy, Dan Doty, about this concept called Everyman, and how he had also started a podcast to try and talk about men's emotional wellness. So I listened to those two podcasts and they were awesome. And he was on Joe Rogan, and I was like, oh, yeah, this is a cool idea. So I just started, and in the tools of Titans, it had like how to start a podcast. And I literally used Zoom in 2017 and recorded some conversations with some mates. Ended up, because as I said, I was doing that ketone thing with Keegan Smith. So I ended up talking to Keegan Smith. That all of a sudden like got 100 listens in 2 days. I was like, this is shit hot. After my first one's been like 10, 5. You're like, this is slow going. So then it just came from there, and eventually, I've just kept on going. So I came up with the name the Stag Roar because my nickname during uni was Stag, and still sort of is in various circles. The title Life Less Ordinary, like what is it about these interesting people? What's the thing that they're doing different that makes them interesting or makes them successful? What's that slightly divergent path that they're taking? I had one mate that was starting a non-for-profit in the Waikato, which has now turned into a charity, and he's got Dwayne Sweeney being the general manager of it. It's called the Water Boy. I saw that in its infancy. At that Ryla thing, me and another friend, Gemma, we set up, because I'd been in Christchurch and I'd gone to the young professionals, and I was like, well, that was just kind of like a piss up. Like, how could we make something that's more like a meaningful connection and like mobilize the youth of the city? Because I think Hamilton had like a really massive, I think the sort of 20 to 30 age bracket was actually the second highest in the city, compared to like the older population. So it was like, that's like a massive resource for the city that's sitting there like pissing around doing nothing meaningful. They were all working in silos. Like, how could we connect this thing? And so that turned into this thing called Seed Waikato, which I sort of sparked the idea with her, and we did a whole bunch of work, and eventually she ran with it and carried it on and took it forward, which was cool. Had another friend, and again, we're talking 2017. I was talking to Dan about his Circuband product, and now they've just got that into countdowns, so you can buy Circuband resistance bands, 12 kg kettlebells, 12 kg dumbbells, stretching bands and stuff in a countdown in Australasia. So like talking to him, talking to the sports psychology guy, Keegan Smith, what's it like to coach fucking Sonny Bill Williams, what the Roosters, and now, why do you not want to do that anymore? Because he just wants to change the world. Through him, being able to talk to Ben Patrick, you've had 4 knee surgeries, and instead of going like, well, this is shit, I'm not playing basketball again, he listens to a little bit of Charles Poliquin and go, oh, there's something there. It makes this whole worldwide phenomenon of like helping people get out of knee pain and be functional again. So yeah, it's just like there's no real. The theme is actually life less ordinary.
Yep.
I've got that little bit of underlying theme of men's emotional intelligence, and I think that 1 to 3 hour conversations is an awesome way to explore that. Yeah, so that's how the podcast sort of grew and developed, and why it keeps going.
Yep.
Because there's always awesome people to talk to.
Well, it's funny saying, because I was about to ask, is because if you do a podcast, you may understand this, but there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff. You know who you're going to have on next, and planning in advance. And you actually just answered my question there was how do you keep that flame ignited? You know, how do you keep the ball rolling?
Yeah, I just keep finding people that are interesting, eh?
Yeah.
Which is buzzy as. Yeah.
Everyone has a story. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Everyone has a story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, like, every now and again, you'll hit the jackpot and you'll have Rob Wolf on your podcast. And you're like, that's weird. Or like I said, Ben Patrick on your podcast, or Bert Soren that makes the gym equipment for fucking Joe Rogan. Like, mint. Yeah. But like, and then you have like people like Stefan Smith, who, you know, Garage Gym NZ, just this humble Instagram page and now a 100 episode podcast. Turns out I probably used to watch him play rugby as a 4-year-old, and my dad used to coach him back in Invercargill, and just like awesome dudes like that, awesome dudes like Alexi that I said I was on his podcast last time. You know, just this cool dude that's in Tokoroa during lockdown. It's like, hey man, come around, let's have a chat, and we, you know, talk about growing up in Russia, talk about moving to Onehunga and not being Polynesian or Māori, but not being a European, or he's European, but you know, Anglo-Saxon European, and kind of going, well, how the fuck do I fit into this environment? You know, that's like, it's cool, yeah. And you know, now meeting you, just because it's like, who's in the New Zealand podcast space hustling. And it's funny because the New Zealand Podcast Summit is on right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's like that captured space that's happening. That's what Alexi and I talked about last night. It's like, why is there that none of the comedians have a legitimate podcast out there? They have a you know, a variation of a radio show that's put out as an RSS feed.
Yeah.
That's really an advertising model. But there's no one like Theo Vaughn, like, having his own platform, talking shit. There's no one like you know, Santino or Andrew Schultz or Bill Burr, like ripping out at, you know, trying to see the funny side of our country. But they're all captured by The Project or 7 Sharp or whatever. And it's like, to me, there's no opinion, and it's cool that rappers in New Zealand have picked up that mantle, like Kings, back in the day, Homebrew. You know, I like hearing an artist, you know, tell the Prime Minister to suck his dick, like, like, you know, to awesome music, like, you know, I like hearing him saying that, you know, growing up in Avondale or Mangere is awesome, but also quite rough. You know, why aren't we having some comedians out there talking, you know, bluntly, openly, you know, back and forth, taking the piss out of the irony of, especially in the last 2 years, there's been so much content, but because they're captured by our media organizations, their jokes are so like ho ho ho, and you're like,
so like tunnel vibes. I think the only comedian that comes to mind is Ricky Gervais when he did his old talk show podcast, and you saying that is actually so correct. You don't see, I would say Russell Brand. Yeah, his is a good podcast, but people like that.
The Aussies are doing it. So there's like, what are they called? Hard Yarns podcast that's in Perth.
Yeah.
There's this. I don't know their names. It's these 2 young fellas. They're also in Perth. It's like maybe it's like Sam and J-Mo or something like that. They're on TikTok. There's another 2 guys in Sydney.
You got Dos and D as well.
Dos and D. I haven't come across those 2.
No, you should, bro. They're pretty good.
Yeah. Luke Kidgel and I can't remember his mate's name. They've got one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the Hard Yarns, they get a bunch of the comedians on as well, and they just talk shit like in a joke about every aspect of the spectrum. Like, they're not you know, pushing an agenda. They're just having like Hard Yarns. It's just having a yarn, like trying to find something, you know, just saying something and be like, is that funny? And that's what I think New Zealand needs.
Oh, yeah, we need it in general. That's those kind of people can create a space where everyone can just go to and just take a break from everything.
Yeah,
take a break. Comedians is. I was trying to think of his name.
That's what I said back in the day and it was kind of because TV3 back then was like pulling the finger at TVNZ, being like, look what we can do, and they had like C4 as well, and that was even more like, look what we can do. Like, we can take the piss, we can have Havoc and Newsboy, and that's what's so funny now. Jeremy Wells is on, is that 7 Sharp? I don't.
With Barry,
yeah, Hillary Barry, and like Mike King's show back in the day. I remember my parents being like, "You're not watching that." Like he was swearing, and as we found out, he was not having a great time of life with things, but his comedy probably was what kept him up, because he was able to just say so much stuff. But yeah, that was on like late night on TV3 or C4, and like because now they're like owned by Discovery Channel. It's like raining in. Yeah, can't speak your mind.
No, and it would be nice to see those kind of. Who I'd love to see have their own show?
Who
would be Adam Sandler?
Yeah.
And what's that Donnie's name? He always gets him. Oh, he was I'm trying to think of the movie, but he's on it. You can do it.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember his name, but like those two together would be amazing.
But they and again they don't need to. Yeah,
No.
Yeah. Just it's a bit like Will Ferrell. He doesn't need to do a show anymore.
Yeah.
Like they say, there hasn't been a funny movie made since like Superbad. Yeah, but I don't even know what comedians in New Zealand would do anything these days. Like, I remember that when I went to O'Rourke, our O Week, Daihewood came into the hall to do, like, I think he did half an hour for us, including ripping me to shreds. Like, I was like, we were off to a dress up party straight after it, so I think I was dressed up as like, or we'd been had like a volleyball thing, so I was thinking I was like dressed up, and I was on the red floor, and I was like dressed up as like a fucking ladybird, and he's like, just like, who are you? And then he found out I was from Invercargill, and he's just like, where to town? It was brilliant. And then, but sure enough, there was a dude there from Gore, and then so we managed to deflect that over to him, and far out, just like, it was. I was in his element. He was just like, he sees me, like I'm over enthusiastic, and then he finds out I'm from Invercargill. He's just like, hallelujah, this is too easy. Money for jam, in Auckland, easiest joke ever. Like, this guy. Yeah, I'm keen to be the butt of the jokes. Yeah, but like, and that's what's good about these Aussie comedians as well. They're putting up all their crowd work, and it's just so funny how good they can rip people out of the crowd and just like make jokes. I saw one about Bathurst the other day, and it's like, what do you guys even do here? Like, you come here every time, like, you've been up the mountain? It's like, and the trains. It's like, oh yeah, the train. And it's like, but it doesn't go anywhere. Like, what the fuck is it? They're like, oh yeah, but we live in Bathurst, so a train's like, that's the coolest thing. It's like, New Zealand's so easy for that shit. Like, there's some seriously lame stuff in New Zealand. Yeah, like, where is it? Like, why aren't the comedians coming down to like Tukarara and just ripping out the mill and the people in it, and like Hawke's Bay, they're so parochial. I thought Southland was parochial, but man, people from Hawke's Bay are so parochial. So every time it rained, because they're always like, oh, it never rains at Hawke's Bay. You're like, what's this stuff? Like, just rip them out, Like, oh, bring it back. Bring it back.
Just need to make the authenticity.
Yeah, Havoc and Newsboy starting up that Gore is the gay capital of New Zealand, just like outrageously good.
Yeah, bro. Now, what I was going to say to you, bro, is just the podcasting in general. Is it one of those things that you're like, yeah, let's do it, or is it everything in life? Sometimes it's like, oh, I don't know if I'm really up for it today, or.
No, I have an obsessive personality, eh?
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. Yeah.
Like I said, like, I go to a national juniors swimming meet, and I'm going to be an Olympian.
Yeah, bro.
I play football, and I've got David Beckham and Paul Winston here at Cantona on my wall, and I had this dream that I was going to go to Milk Cup and get picked up by Manchester United. I was going to, play for the All Whites. I was going to be in the Football Kings Academy, and then the Phoenix. I was going to play for the Phoenix type thing. Water polo. I wasn't just going to play water polo in Southland. I was going to make the New Zealand team. rugby, you know, I changed from football, and it's like, I'm going to play Premier Rugby. I'm going to get involved in this academy, you know. I'm going to play for Southland. Same with Sevens. Like, I was just playing Sevens for Auckland University, and I was talking to a manager in Invercargill. It's like, could I play rugby for Southland? He's like, yeah, don't see why not. And that was that. You know, sometimes you need that person to say, don't see why not.
Yeah.
As opposed to, oh no, well you'd have to. That's the usual response in New Zealand. Oh no, you'd have to. And that's been the same thing, like the optometry journey in terms of being a director. There's been lots of, you know, and that's probably the choice of where I've gone. Like, it's been up to someone else, and so to be like tapped on the shoulder and be like, "Do you want to be the director?" Like, I've been wanting to be the director for the last 5 years.
Can't believe you just asked me that.
Yeah,
can't believe it.
Of course, like, I'm currently committed to something, and I couldn't make that opportunity work. An opportunity to work with some practices in Hauraki. Just as I'd moved to Tokoroa, I had another person be like, "Do you want to buy my practice?" And I was like, "Oh, you know, I've just kind of committed to this type thing." And then, like I say, serendipitously, I have this personality clash, and at the same time, Tope will be like, "Do you want to come have a chat?" I'm like, "Okay." maybe it's my time now. That you sometimes look at the universe, you know, and go, maybe it's the time now that I'm ready. Maybe I needed to do all those things and experience all those things so that when it came my time, I could know what doesn't work or know what does work, or experience a whole range of different ways of doing it. So same when it comes to, like, you're going to run a podcast, it's like, you know, why can't I be Joe Rogan of New Zealand? You know, now there's not, as we were talking about on Instagram the other day, there's not the space in New Zealand yet to recognise podcasting as a medium.
Yeah.
And you're definitely seeing the defensive tactics of the established media, that they just are flooding the RSS feeds with their radio shows. Fair play to them, because that's what I'd do. If I had all of the marketing money in New Zealand wrapped up in my little media company, I'm not going to let some pricks in their bedroom with a couple of microphones take away my marketing budgets. Like,
how dare they?
Yeah, how dare they? Like, and hey, we still haven't managed to crack that marketing budgets, but you know, slowly, organically over the last 5 years, I've been building a following of committed people that tune in every week, and you know, you see those, you know, those automatic downloads that show up in the first 2 days, just slowly creeping up, and every time you like hit a new follow, you watch your back catalog get listened to, you go, you know, surely one day this is going to be where people look, you know, pay a newspaper a bunch of money and nothing happens to their new recruitment. But if you could sort of make an area, you know, talk about a brand, then you're gonna reach a bunch of people that believe in a person or an individual or a group, that they you know, and you can come from a place where you can promote brands and products that you're passionate about in yourself, and it can be for a slither of a company's normal marketing budget, but it means the world to a podcaster, because it means that they can as we were talking about, they can offset the time that they put into a podcast show, and then you like look at the scale of what's happened with Joe Rogan. It's like ridiculous, the level that's created. So, you know, why not? You know, why can't we create this underground? You know, it's the same with like pirate radio, Hauraki NZ. You know, like pirate radio, just make a boat, a couple of k's out the coast there, and let New Zealand hear some rock and roll. Yeah. Now they're one of the, you know, the biggest radio stations in New Zealand.
I love podcasting, and we said at the start, bros. And I was going to say, in reply to what you said, is, you know, Ryan and I came in touch through podcasting, and it's starting the podcast. It's been 2 years now. You know, I've finally realised that once you do something you're actually passionate about and that you love, you're going to attract so many people who are right for you. You know, who just may have the same morals, have the same mindset, want to get to the same place, have the same work ethic, have the same passion as you do, and those are the people you need in your life. And I would have never thought that starting a podcast, you know, expressing the importance behind mental health and sharing my own struggles and helping people tune in would give me that blessing of meeting so many people, impacting so many people's lives, but loving it. That's the amazing thing, is that I love to do this week to week, and I love it even more when someone goes, thanks for saying this, or this was said in your episode and it's really helped me. Like, those are the things that I don't think are cherished enough, and why, like you said, is I don't understand why it's not pushed out enough. That, you know, your listeners and my listeners and people who tune into what we're saying, is that who knows what we could say, but something could resonate with them, and that's so important. It's little things like you said. We're in my bedroom right now. You know, we're in my bedroom and we're doing what we're doing because we love it. And who knows who's going to happen? Who knows who's going to see this? But it's the fact that we love it, and we love to talk, and we love to just have a yarn, and we love that people enjoy like tuning into the yarns as personally what keeps it going. Is that I wake up on a Monday morning going to work. I cannot wait for a Friday. You know, Friday or Saturday when I can sit down and have a yarn. I cannot wait for that, and it's an amazing feeling. So it's a huge buzz.
Yeah, I've got like a weird life at the moment where during the week I'm by myself in Tokoroa. I go do my work. I have the best job where, as an optometrist, you need a patient. So if you're not there in the clinic, and that's why we couldn't really work in level 4 and we're pretty restricted in level 3, it's because we need a bloody patient.
You need someone to do work on.
It's like the moment I leave that practice, and it's going to be a little bit different being the owner, because there's going to be ideas and things that were like, how can we, you know, grow that practice or deliver with what we've got better and optimize what we're doing. But it's still going to be in the essence. I can't implement that until I'm there. So with me and then on every 3 out of the 4 weekends, I have my daughter, and so you know, I'm not really available over the weekend. I have this other side where, you know, I get to tune out for the world and have this own little very you know, precious world that's like. And then pretty much every weekend my girlfriend's either coming up from Hawke's Bay or I'm going down there. Sometimes Billy's coming down to Hawke's Bay. She has her daughter every second weekend. So we go from this like quite the time when either bookends of the day when I'm by myself and doing those daily tasks that I do, and then in my job I'm implementing the downtimes. I'm doing other things like that's where I'm sort of connecting with people and organizing stuff and finding things that are interesting, trying to stay topical, like looking at what's going on in the world from the opinion of the people. Like, I don't actually really read the news. There's times and places where you want to try to read the news, but at the moment I'm even finding like you try to tune into the news to try to get a topic and you can't get the information out. Like one of the sort of hot topics that's coming out with leading to the election next year is this co-governance thing, and like I'll gladly admit that I am ignorant as hell to all of that, because I grew up in Invercargill and I went to a school that had a marae and we did kapahaka, and you know, so I have an appreciation for like Māori and Māori people and Māori cultures. But what happened in the South Island, I have no idea. What happened in the Waikato, I am slowly learning, but the more I learn, the more I have no idea. Same in Taranaki, the clearing of that land. I've read one book that was from the perspective of the people that cleared the land, and I'm like, oh, well, what's the other side of the story, you know? And so then you hear, you know, headline about, oh, we don't want co-governance, we do want co-governance. You're like, well, what's the actual thing? You know, I had Q&A on with fucking Jack Tame. Like, he used to be a good reporter. He's got this show that's a gotcha show, and he says to Christopher Luxon, can you explain? Christopher Luxon says 3 words and he interrupts him. I'm like, well, I don't know anything more. Like, so I need to have a sit down. You know, that's one of the things, the topics that I'd like to explore on my podcast, is get someone who's an elder or something like that from one of the iwis to explain their part in all of this. You know, what's historically happened, Calvin Davis the other day was talking in Parliament. He used up all his time, but just his little story about his great grandfather up in the Bay of Islands and what had happened to him and how he ended up in prison, and they lost the pa. It got burnt to the ground, so that meant all the vegetables and stuff that little tribe had was gone, and how that means that for 4 generations until Calvin shows up and now he's in Parliament, but that opportunity lost from of all that mess, and that's just one story. So that allows people to have a better perspective rather than the headline is National doesn't want co-governance, acts questioning co-governance and wants to do a referendum. Labour is trying to push this. The other narrative is like Labour's trying to push this through. And you're like, well, what's the actual fucking story? Can someone explain?
Just doing it for the sake of a headline, eh?
Yeah, and it's kicking political footballs around, and that's the beautiful thing about podcast. Like, why? Where's the podcast about that? That's That's the other one. Again, I watch 7 Days. Oh, so and so said this. I'll take the piss out of him. Chucking a funny joke. Everyone on the panel laughs. Move on. Next topic. You're like, oh, but what's the real story? This is our country we live in. Like, what's the real story? That's the beautiful thing about podcasts, man. You can get someone to talk for 3 hours, tell their story, tell their side of the story. You can hear it. You can listen to it. You don't have Jack Tame asking someone to explain and then three words later interrupting him. You're like, come on, man.
I love the podcasting scene though as well, is because you can get people to voice their thoughts and voice what they're thinking, and you can ask someone something, and I can guarantee you that someone listening or watching is wanting to ask or know the same answer as well.
Yeah.
So you're not only asking a question for yourself, but you're asking it for the person tuning into it.
Well, like I say, there's probably 200 Southlanders that have no friggin' idea about the history of Māori in the South Island.
Yeah.
And there's a bit more of the South Island that probably is in the same boat. The stereotype about Christchurch is a stereotype for a good reason. Kai or Kaitahu, that's the other thing, I don't know which way you're supposed to say it, owns a lot of Christchurch City, owns a lot of the Wakatipu Basin, but the general South Islander wouldn't know why, me included, wouldn't know what that treaty settlement was all about, me included.
Yeah. No, well, that's the point exactly though.
Yeah.
Is that you want to know these answers, and you may get the chance to ask the question for those answers.
Yeah.
And you're going to answer for half the Southland, bro. They're going to make a statue for you for answering that question, bro. Legit. For asking that question, they're going to chuck a statue of Ryan dead centre.
That'd be hilarious. Then 20 years later, they'll pull it down.
The man with the golden questions.
Yeah. No, it's funny, hey? Like, we're so young as a country, eh? Like, how many generations your family been here? Mine's 4. And it's like,
mine's probably not much more than that, bro.
Yeah. Like, that's the funny thing about reading that book about Taranaki. It was written by an Aucklander, and he's talking about, Devonport. Basically Devonport being like a world away from Auckland City, and they just opened the ferry, and then he's talking about the 80s, and of course it's the 1880s. Yeah, in Taranaki, them clearing this land. You're like, what a world away. The Crown military's set up in South Taranaki, coastal Taranaki. Like, imagine that.
But isn't it buzzy though how that time isn't... I was talking to my mum about this the other day, is you watch documentaries and stuff, and it's like, 700 years or 1,000 years ago kind of thing. And I thought about it from a perspective that's only 10 people.
Yeah, the 10 people thing's good, eh?
Yeah, like there's 10, that's the 10 people's lifetime gone, and you think about it, you're like, that's not actually that long ago. Yeah. It's all about perspective. It was one of those moments you thought about. You're like, oh, it makes so much sense. All the stars are aligning. But it's history in general, and all those books Now to Then, where they show photos we've gotten for Auckland. And it's even the ferry terminal.
Yeah.
Like what that looked like in the
one that's in Britomart.
Yeah, the ferry terminal then, like what it looked like before. Bro, it looked like a West Coast beach.
Yeah.
Like, it's stuff like that, and you got to question, like, I wonder what the story was, what we're not being told, what we are being told that isn't actually accurate, all those questions that probably no one will ever know. No one will ever know because no one gets the proper opportunity to ask those questions.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the same we know about on my mum's side.
Yeah.
So her maiden name's Mulligan, and so we know about that ancestor coming to New Zealand from Ireland.
Yeah.
So he came with his sister on a boat. They kind of stopped off in Australia, maybe South Africa too. They're rounding, so they must have gone through Fovo Strait. They're rounding the Catlins. It's New Year's Eve. Everyone's on the cruise a bit pissed, and they run aground. There's a little bit of like a tyranny going on. So some of the first mates or whatever are like, all right, let's get out of here, get on the lifeboats. And the captain's being like, nah, don't do that. So one lifeboat gets away, and the captain's like, you can imagine like what some of the profanity. He's probably threatening to kill them type stuff because they're disrespecting the captain, but he's drunk.
Yeah.
And they run aground, and they're going, what are you doing, man? You can imagine it. It's New Year's Eve. You're in the Catlins. You've come from Ireland. And these clowns that are taking you safe passage are having a fight. And another boat came past, I think it was called Takatimu, after that. Obviously the waka that came to New Zealand, but then the mountain range down there as well. It was on its way to Bluff from Dunedin. He'd tried to help him, and the captain told him to piss off. Then they got refloated, so then they went to the opposite side of this bay and shipwrecked again. And so there's one lifeboat on one side of the estuary, and then the rest of the boat on the other side of the estuary, and they've got to like drag themselves ashore in the Catlins, and you could imagine there was nothing freaking there. Anyone that's been to the Catlins, that's wild. Next day, this Takatimu boat comes back, picks them up, takes them up to Dunedin, and then it's like, imagine like rocking into Dunedin and being like, all right, now what? They must have had some place to go, but yeah.
What a ride!
Linked up with other Irish people, and then like,
do I have a story for you?
Yeah, and they're like, yeah, far out. Oh, how are you doing? Oh, well, you wouldn't believe it. Yeah, and then linking up with the Anglicans, and then on my dad's side of the family, they're the Catholic Irish. Apparently my dad's granddad kind of grew up in Miller's Flat, and parents died when he was like 11, and they're like a big ass family, and it's like, right, better go to Dunedin and get some money. Imagine that, 11 years old, Form 1, right, better go to work.
I've actually,
I think he was already working. He was like driving like a draft horse
at 11.
Yeah, driving a draft horse,
change,
like ploughing up Miller's Flat, probably for some sheep.
What 11-year-old do now for work? Uber driver, mate?
Imagine, yeah,
Uber
yeah,
driver?
that'll be like the equivalent 11-year-old driving your Uber.
Doing a TikTok while driving you in the Uber?
Did you have any jobs as an 11-year-old?
Mowing the lawn.
Mowing the lawn, yeah.
$2 a pop.
Oh man, you got paid.
That was a hefty.
You had a ride on. That was good. I think I started working at the movie theatre when I was 15 or 16. Yeah.
Where was it? I'll say it. I was working at Domino's.
Domino's, yeah.
Mate, worst experience of my life.
Well, that's same as the movies. We used to accidentally break that ice cream.
What was that? I would accidentally burn the pizza. That was it.
Yeah.
That was it. But nah, the only good thing about Domino's is you'd get a guy on a Wednesday night who had too much to drink, and he'd order about 6 pizzas and like 4 garlic breads.
Yeah.
Just explode his card and never show up. So he's got 4 pizzas for yourself for home. That was the only good thing about it.
It sounds like us last night going to New Flavour, and I ordered 3 lots of dumplings. That's a lot of dumplings, because I think they're like 20 dumplings on a plate. Me and my mate got through them. The last plate we sort of deshelled the dumpling, so just had the meat. But then I had like maybe it was the parrot dogs, but I reckon I had an MSG hangover this morning. Yeah, we're like not sure. It's like, were we that drunk? We didn't feel drunk. We didn't drink that much, but maybe.
Nah, you have when you question that. When you don't know if you drank too much or not, you drank.
Nah, but it was that's the problem with a hazy. It's possibly like a 7 or 8% that you've had 2 pints of, but really, you've put away some alcohol, and then you have some dumplings on top of that at 2 a.m. and of course you can't really sleep that good. Yeah, Then I worked. My mum got us the job doing data entry at the hospital.
Right. Yeah.
Because they changed computer programs, so they needed everyone's files changed over. So that was tedious. And then whilst there, I went and did an asset stock take. So I got, at an 18-year-old, they gave me the like Hyundai like little hatchback to drive up to Queenstown and drive up to Gore to like look at the SKU number on the laptops and computer clients that they had up in Queenstown. They trusted me to do that. I was like, that's ridiculous. And then I went and worked at the freezing works.
Yep.
Resigned there, and they're like, we don't usually get people resigning. So I had like 2 weeks to work, and they're like, oh, you can go work out in the chiller now. I was like, damn it, because I was in the boating room. I was working on the loom machine. It was great, packing legs that were going off, like beautiful legs going off to the UK. Like, why isn't that in the supermarket? Yeah, and then because Dad worked at the aluminium smelter by then, I got 3 summers at the aluminium smelter.
Yeah,
and then I worked a summer up in Taranaki milking cows. I'd done that 1 or 2 summers. So that was good. And then I just did odd jobs while I tried to get in that Southland team. Yeah.
I love Taranaki. It's a beautiful place. We've got a family farm down there.
Nice.
Yeah, bro. I was thinking about it. I've never really looked into my family because mum's side's O'Donnell's, so Irish, and you got Henderson, which is the Scottish side.
Yeah.
I that's all I know, and that's all I'm going to know because there's going to be so much.
There'll be some dirty laundry in there, eh?
There will be, knowing how rough the Hendersons get, I don't want to get into that. Anyway.
Yeah, like, who knows what you might find out.
Yeah, bro. So, I want to ask, bro, is on a personal level, what are some challenges that you've come, in recent years, or just challenges you've overcome in general, where you've actually had to have a lot of composure as an individual to be like, okay, I'm struggling to get over this.
Yeah.
But I need to.
So with the birth of my child, my ex got postnatal depression. So she went through the sort of baby blues, which is typical. But they never really went away. So we'd already committed to going to Australia before my daughter was born.
Yeah.
And or maybe that was just after. Anywho, doesn't matter. We'd committed to going to Australia, and she was struggling, and so then we moved up to Pukekohe to move in with her parents, and we had about a month and a half left before we were going to Australia. And like I said, when I decide on something to do, I'm pretty like, yeah, we're going to do it.
Yeah, right.
It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And so that getting my little family to Australia, I had to be very, very composed, and then needing to do all the things to mean that we survived over in Australia while she's not doing so well, and we're isolated again. That was rough, but again, I just went back to because that was when I really got into Stoic philosophy. The CrossFit gym I was at, they had the Stoic journal, so I got into this really good habit of getting up in the morning, going and doing Wim Hof breathing, getting into the gym, warming up, stretching, reading the page for the day from the Stoic Journal by Ryan Holiday, closing that off, doing the workout, coming home, going on the beach, really like being present in the sand, in the water. The water was beautiful, watching the sun come up, all that sort of stuff. Coming home, my daughter would either wake up or just have woken up, like being present with her, making breakfast, and then going to work, doing my job really well. I didn't, especially in Bellin, I didn't have that many patients, so I'd like read, I'd learn, I'd connect with lots of people. I like dove deep into sort of diet wars around nutrition and epidemiology and all that sort of stuff. Listened to lots of stuff. Came home, especially in summer, we'd be sticking hot, would go swim again. Make dinner, just like trying my best to be everything, and we got through it, and eventually it was like, no, we need to come back to New Zealand. So again, it's like, well, what have I got to do to make that happen?
Yeah.
Got the job in Hawke's Bay, and again, that just continued to sort of capitulate our relationship. Just not being able to handle it, struggling financially, and so then we separated in March, and then a couple of weeks later, then it's lockdown, and it's like, fuck, now I can't see my daughter. So just like, I can't remember who gave me the advice, but they said, go do the parenting through separation course. And I listened and did it. And there was a young girl there that was talking about how like her parents had separated, which is pretty common, but then so separation, that's common, unfortunately. And she was saying how like her dad lived so far away, and she just felt like she never saw her dad. And so that really hit home, that all I needed to do was just be there for my daughter, make her know who I am and that she's loved. And that was my like key to focus. On the other side, I created a physical challenge to basically, it was a coping mechanism. It was to remove myself from the enormity of it all. Like there was plenty of days where I'd be driving back from Te Kowhara, I'd get to Hawke's Bay and like think about stuff and eat up in tears, or get home and like thankfully my flatmates would be there, so then I'd just break down. But yeah, I'd entered an ultra marathon, and that was just like this 6-month process of escalating training. Like, you look at down in the bottom of the training program, it says 60-kilometer training run on one day. You're like, what the fuck? So I never trained 60 Ks because like physically I'm probably not built for ultra running. But yeah, I did do a couple of times 46K runs. On Boxing Day I run the length of the Hakramatas and back, which was like 26 Ks, and stuff like that. Or like I ran around this loop in the Kaimais that was like, again, like 26 Ks, and then got to my car, had something to eat, and then walked with my pack back to the hut and tried to go hunting the next day. I was knackered. But, just shit like that. It was just something to focus on, something to keep doing. So I was like, moved back in from my mate's farm, moved back into Havelock, joined the gym. I'd already joined the gym, but started going to the gym in my lunch hour. I'd eat my lunch, go have a sauna. I'd go to the gym in the morning. I'd go running in the morning. I'd be running after work, and just like slowly like moving away and letting go, and obviously running, you get to turn everything over in your head. Go through all those processes. Continue to see my daughter, continue to speak to her on FaceTime every day, and things get better and better and better. And then by the end of the year, it was like, right, I think I can like meet people again. And then managed to meet my girlfriend. She was amazing. There was sort of this unknown period for a while there where I was trying to figure out what I'm doing professionally, because going from Hawke's Bay to Te Kowhara every fortnight wasn't sustainable. And then it was like, right, gonna move to Tokoroa, and then like that was like one more thing that was like done and sorted and organized. And then so I was, me and my girlfriend would stop seeing each other because it was like, this is useless, and then we'd end up seeing each other. Like we were kind of inseparable, and like she was awesome and like patient and helped me through, and I helped her through her separation. And then it was kind of like one of those things. I think my mate that I stayed with in Te Kowhara said to me, because his wife, she's divorced and has 3 kids, and was based in Auckland, whereas he's based in Hamilton. And he had said like, well, maybe what if it was like, what would it look like if you made it work? And like he's like, that's how we did it. And then it was quite funny, because it was like, with all my mates, we went to Wilkinson, and Leary as time, and I don't know, I just was like, oh, that thought must have come to my head, and then we ended up together. It's been freaking amazing. But to answer your question, it's always, and that Stoic philosophy thing came along at the right time. It's just always about, who am I, how am I feeling, how am I moving forward. Another thing I wrote in rugby, and it's, I think I got it off Richie McCaw, but it was just like keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Especially as a flanker, like you hit a ruck, you want to go through the ruck. You make a tackle, you want to go through it.
Yeah.
You know, you get the ball, you want to go through it. You carry the ball, you want to go forward. Keep going forward. And so like that's been like a simple thing. When I journal, I write start again. That's definitely Richard McCaw. The date, start again. I acknowledge the memento mori concept of like you are going to die. What are you doing right now? 30,000 days you're going to be alive for. You know, they are ticking away. 86,400 seconds in every day. Don't get hung up on that 1 second. There's heaps of them. Keep going. You know that. Yeah. So, and then you'll see on my Instagram I'll put up the quote that I look for. Write down some gratitude. That makes things feel really good.
You put it out there, right?
Yeah. Just write 3 things of gratitude down. Have it look at the sky and have a think. Well, what is good?
Yeah, bro.
3 things. What is good? Write an affirmation. As going back to when I said about psychotherapy I did. Don't be hard on yourself. Tell yourself you're good. Tell yourself you're loved. Tell yourself you're loving. Tell yourself that you're creative. Tell yourself that you're interesting. You're innovative. You're driven. You're diligent. Those good qualities. And then the other thing I do in terms of that visualization idea, that moment of perfection, is like when I'm 70, what is it that I'm sitting there going, shit, I'm glad I did that. So I do this like future gratitude. I place myself as a, retired adult going, man, life's good. And because life is good because I did that thing. So it's like an aspiration.
How are you going to get that point
here,
bro?
But you've done it. You're acting like you've done it.
Yeah.
You've got everything you ever dreamed of. You're sitting there and going, man, I'm glad I did X.
Yep. I'm
grateful that I did X. Your future self is grateful for what you did. Yeah, so I write that. So multiple of tools.
Yep.
I do breath, do cold exposure. It doesn't have to be those, but they're just like little tools, little behaviors that mean that something as astronomical as your, and growing up Catholic, even though I probably wouldn't identify as Catholic anymore, but the idea of marriage and family is, hugely important. And number one, for that to break away, you've got to be really knowing of yourself. That's one of the, my last question on my podcast is like, what keeps you in flow?
Yeah.
Self-awareness has come up so much, and that's I think is key to being able to carry on, keep moving forward.
And I want to say, bro, is that what you're doing, how you said, but just being there for your daughter.
Yeah.
Even if it's a phone call, whatever it is, that is something that's huge.
Yeah.
Being young and not having your parents together, like what you see with your friends or what you see on TV, whatever that. But it's just it's a whole lot of confusion. So the fact that you're being there, like I said, whether it's a call or putting that effort, is that in the long term will be very big for her. Is I'm saying that from past experience, is because there is a lot of confusion. You don't know why you can't see your mum or your dad, or you can't go home and they're both there. Is that confusion? But I remember that moment of having that interaction. That was, it could have been 10 minutes, 30 minutes. That was like 30 minutes where I was at peace. And that was a peaceful moment where I wasn't questioning stuff, where confusion wasn't a question, where everything felt like it was normal. And that's why I try to put it there, is that you don't have to be like what you see on the movies or anything, that we're all different, we have different stories, we have different journeys, but is to find that normal spot, find that peaceful spot. And I just wanted to say that because that's what that alone is, that is an admirable thing on your part, and that'll be huge for her in the long term.
That's the thing that was cool. Unfortunate for that girl, but awesome that she shared.
Yeah, bro.
And it was just like that little moment that, like, what you do, little things. You've got to think about exactly what you said, that long-term thing.
Yeah.
Like, there's going to be so many things that don't matter what does matter. And I think that's what Stoic philosophy is about, is what actually matters.
Yeah.
How you how you feel about a situation is how you interpret the situation. You can react, or you can go, great, that happened.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be responsible and make something happen. Yeah.
I want to ask, bro, how did you, in a time of, holy shit, like, what am I going to do now? As yourself, bro, how did you just take a step back and go, okay, this is what I need to do, and just the fact of, like, refining yourself to keep yourself on track?
Yeah, I think sport probably was huge, because when you're playing sport to win, when you're playing sport, especially in a team environment, an individual in a team environment, and you know that you can influence the game by what you do, means you can follow that on into life. You know that in sport you have a referee, you have team members, you have an opposition trying to make you lose.
Yeah,
well, not that the referee's trying to officiate, but
depends who you are.
Yeah. But I was such a sort of angry and impatient child. Like, thank God for sport.
Yeah, bro.
Like, in the pool, there's this thing like black line fever that you get from just training all the time, looking at the fucking bottom of the pool, and it's because you're sitting there, breathing, over and over again, lap after lap, stuck in your bloody head, hurting, gasping for breath. But it's like, keep going. Oh, there's another thing. Twice I've trained to exhaustion.
Yep.
And it's a long way after you were hurting. Like, the first swim camp I went to, on the first day, I didn't eat enough food, and we trained 3 2-hour sessions, and I still had 2 lots of 400 meters freestyle to go, and the coach made me finish, and like, I couldn't feel the water. I had like dead arms, but I managed to finish. Who's that? Make sure you finish your set. Yeah, that was it. It was like, finish your set. And then again in Australia, the last work I did in Australia, I trained with some guys that were off to do seal fit. So that's 52 hours with this guy Mark Devine. It's a bit mental, but at the same time you're like doing something physical. And we did this 3-hour training session. I got pretty close to getting rhabdo. It was pretty dumb, but it was, again, just like, keep going, keep putting in, go through the pain. So yeah, I think having, from 8 to 31, trying to do high performance sport, knowing that the each little thing moves the needle and gets you in the end, and you're always getting thrown things that are trying to disrupt you.
Yep.
You can take that into life. And so, as a professional optometrist, when things don't go your way, or how you imagine them, or how you envision them, you just keep pivoting, keep adapting, carrying on, knowing in yourself that the role that you're doing it good, but in terms of the bigger picture outcome, there's just going to take more, and you're going to learn something from that, and you're going to do something different, and you're going to adapt. The same in the personal life. Like, as you said, you have this movie picture, or you have this thing that you were brought up with in a Catholic primary school, in a Catholic church, the nuclear family, but you can still have family values without being a nuclear family. So I think, must have learned something. I've got some experience over my life.
I love it as well, because I like to use the quote that, when you feel like you're done, you're only 40% of the way
bro.
done.
Yeah.
And that's what I got from what you just said there, bro, is how you train to the point of exhaustion is in life, and you can take it away as well, is that when you're done, you have so much more left.
Yeah.
You're capable of so much more than you think. When you feel like you're going to throw in the towel, bro, keep moving. Keep moving. My football coach at high school, when we used to go on runs, he'd say, if you can't run, jog. If you can't jog, walk. But whatever you do, don't stop.
Well, that was the ultra, eh?
Yeah.
I was for like, so I got down to, just before I got to where my parents were, I'd gone off, and there was this real awkward area where some forestry guys had drawn an arrow on the tree.
Right.
but he'd kind of said like, don't follow the area on the tree, but then there was like a little track as well, and there's people in front of me, so I like went down it. So I was like way off the fucking track, and I was like, oh shit, and I was starting to hurt because we'd done this big ass climb and then come down, and that's when you start to like get tightened up in your knees. And so then I was starting to hurt, and then I like finally got to the point where my family was there, my mum, dad, and my daughter, and they were like, how you going? And I'm like, pretty sore, but it was still like 16 k's to go. And it was exactly that, like, run that bend, walk a little bit more, put your hands on your hips, drink some water, run that bend, walk a little bit more, carry on, just keep on fucking going. Like, got to the last checkpoint, 5 k's to go, straight downhill. You like just jog, walk, just keep going.
Yeah, bro. Yeah.
And like that was an exhaustion, and there was a dude there that did show up for the 101, and I think they had 6 a.m. till midnight. How long's that?
6 a.m. till midnight.
Yeah, 18. They had 18 hours.
That's,
and he did like 17:58. Like he got in just before the cutoff.
Is it cut off 18?
Yeah, 18 hours.
Yeah.
For 101 k's, and so and that him finishing also meant that he got like second in the age group. Like amazing feat to like complete this thing, and then it turns out all that perseverance and carrying on and just keeping on moving for 101 bloody k's over Banks Peninsula meant that he got second in his age group. And I was just like, it's such the coolest thing the next day to hear this story, and then he like gets to stand on the podium and get a medal. You're like, hell yeah, that's such a sick story.
And the next day, life's just back to normal way.
Oh,
it was a huge achievement.
He was, that auditorium was pretty funny. All these crooked ass people trying to walk around. No, Leo, yeah.
Would you do something like that again?
I think I would.
Yeah.
That day when my dad was like, would you do that again? I was like, probably not.
Yeah.
But yeah, it takes about half a week for the endorphins to kick in. And be like, that was amazing.
Yeah.
Let's do that again. Yeah. I think I want to do Poronui Station down south of Taupo. That they do a half marathon and a marathon off road. I want to do the half marathon, hopefully this year. So that's something. I think especially moving to Taupo, I want to do an Ironman. But it's just one of those things that will happen. To be honest, the big thing I want to do is like some epic hunting missions, like 10 days in the wilderness. It's so much fun. Yeah, being out there.
I'll be keen for that. Away from everything,
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's different. Even that, like I was saying to Ryan off camera, is the 24-hour thing that I did last year, bro. Is the hardest part of it, where I was like, okay, I really need to buckle in now. It wasn't actually doing it for 24 hours. It was waiting for the sun to come up.
Yeah, bro.
That was the hardest point. Is because you're going around Auckland Domain and you go past the museum. You're like, oh, yep. Go past it again. Oh, yep, still there. Oh, look at that. The lights are on at the museum. Yeah. And you're just walking, waiting for the sun. And as soon as that sun comes up, it's mean until it goes away again. And then it's like, okay. Got to the point where some whānau, my mum and aunties and some family friends came at about 10:30 odd. I apologised to my mum the next day because they were trying to crack jokes, trying to lighten the mood. I just turned around and I was like, shut up. I'm like, no, don't talk to me. And it got to like, because I really haven't trained for anything like that before. It was more okay, I'll chuck gumboots on, we'll see how it goes. But it makes you so delirious. It was maybe 11 o'clock odd, and I remember walking along the museum side of the domain. And I thought they were all talking, like taking the piss out of me. So I turned around and they were like 20 meters behind me. So I had started talking to myself and hearing these conversations, and that's when I was like, oh, okay. All right, I need this to be done. So I don't think I'd ever do, maybe it wouldn't, but my goal is to do a marathon. But at the moment, I'm like, okay, I'm quite comfortable just going for like a 5K run at the moment.
Yeah. I know that's the thing. I don't think. I think pulling out of doing 101 and doing 54 was like a good idea. It was a good idea, yeah, because that was brutal. But I think if I'd been out there, so that was like 7 hours. Had I been out there for another 9 hours, that could have been pretty dusty.
I don't know how you can pull yourself to do that.
Yeah, well, no,
it's a mean life achievement. That is a sick life achievement.
Well, what was more amazing is the next week, coming back to Hawke's Bay, and the Revenant started, and I'm watching Ian sort of kick off, or everyone kick off, and it's like by the end of day one, everyone's finished and Ian's out there by himself. I go finish work, drive down to Palmerston North, and we're sort of like getting on the person, watching it, and like most people are out by the morning, and Ian's still out there. So then we sort of muck around all day in Palmerston North, keep checking the Instagram story, and Ian's still out there. Oh, he's at this checkpoint. Oh, he's at this checkpoint. Oh, he's at this checkpoint. Then it's like Saturday night, we have a party again. Wake up the next morning. Oh, Ian's still out there. What a chap! Like get sorted again. Pack up my stuff. Drive back to over the hill from Palmerston North back to Havelock. Oh, Ian's finished. He's finished. Holy shit, he's been out there. I've gone to Palmerston North and back for 2 nights. Had a party twice. And he's been out in the bush the whole time. And then I talked to him a couple of weeks later on the podcast. And he's like, I think I slept 45 minutes. I don't know. That's the other thing. Nuts. Absolutely nuts. Yeah, and so I think he was the 3rd person to finish the Revenant in the front at 3 times. No one finished this year, sorry. It's amazing. It's like the most amazing thing. I love God. Do you remember back in the day, going back to Discovery Channel, how they used to have those adventure races? Is his name Nathan Favre? He's a beast. He still crushes it, in God's Own and stuff.
No, doesn't ring a bell.
They do just do all these adventure races. That's nuts. It was so cool. Yeah, and again, Steve Gurney doing the coast to coast and stuff like that. You just know that it's possible so much. Cameron Haynes, David Goggins.
David Goggins.
Can't remember the chick that is it Eliza? No, that's not right. Katie DeWalter, I think that's her name. I've talked to Zach Bitter as well. He did 13 hours on a treadmill for 100 miles. And he's got the flatland 100-miler record. Yeah, it's so fast. It's 11 hours. It's you're amazing. You're amazing. Humans are amazing, and we're humans. So
it all comes down to mindset.
Yeah,
mindset, bro. Is if you, like we said at the start, if you want something, go get it.
Yeah. And
the biggest thing is perspective. I've learned in the past couple of years is perspective.
Yeah.
How you mentioned is positive affirmations, how you carry yourself. The biggest one is I always try to remember who it is before I say it, but it's the whole, you wake up in the morning, the first 20 seconds of your day will be, the result of how the rest of your day is. If you wake up in the morning and you're like, I can't be stuffed today, then best believe the rest of the day is going to be like that. Isaac John goes with that. What's her name? I don't know. She has a 3-2-1, 5-4-3-2-1. It's go. Just go do it. Just go do it. I like that. Yeah. Now, I want to ask, bro, is what's a piece of advice that you could have been given it, or advice, a life lesson, or from the challenges you've been through that's stuck with you and that you feel is quite important?
This a football coach. He came out from Sunderland. Yeah. And I actually kind of have lived my life this way a little bit. Yeah. And as I said, David Beckham was my hero. Growing up for a while there. Well, he still is. He's champ. He's the man. And so John Herdman. Yeah, it was John Herdman. Came over and he's like, right, all lads. He's from Sunderland. He's like, you got to look good, feel good, play good. Yeah. So that's me. I love looking good, feeling good, and then playing good. Yeah. And when you play good, you feel good.
That's true, eh?
Yeah. And you also look good.
Yeah. Mine is I chuck on when I'm doing a Zoom call or something. Yeah. I'm not with the person. I'll chuck on cologne and stuff because it's like that, bro. Yeah. You look good,
environment,
you feel good. Yeah, man. Yeah. It's all those the not superstitions, but you're like I just said before, it's how you carry yourself. You want to set yourself up for success, and that all starts. And you actually mentioned it earlier. Is you can have this big picture, but what are the small steps you have to do? You have to build it up. You have to lay those bricks down to make that path. It's all. Don't be so focused on getting there straight away. And that's a lot of things. That's you can be an athlete, you can be an artist, a musician. Is don't be so set on getting that gold record or making the Prem team straight away. As you're going to have to work for it, but how are you going to have to work for it? How are you going to have to carry yourself? You know, what mindset are you going to have to put yourself in? How are you going to visualize challenges so when they hit you, you know what to do? Like in football, it's always, you know, before a game, walk out onto the field and put yourself into that pre-game position. Is okay, if I get it from here, what I'm going to do? That's like life, bro. I always try to go into a scenario where, you know, it could be, there's a book I'm reading which is Perform Under Pressure, and he's a sports psychologist, and he always says that you should be able to think through at least 50% of all possible outcomes in under 15 seconds. You know, this could happen, okay, what am I going to do? And it should just be quick snap thoughts, because in the moment it's going to have to be a quick snap thought. So it's putting yourself and carrying yourself the way you need to and the way you want to get where you want to go. Yeah bro, 100% bro,
love it,
100%. Now what I love to do is I love to hand it over to you, bro. You know, put whatever you want out there, spit some crap, talk a mean yarn, put whatever out there you want out there, bro. Advice to the person watching and tuning in. You know, something you want to put out there for yourself. Just your time, brother. Just anything you want to.
I think that we can really listen to what Izzy said, Style Bender at the Halberg Awards. Like, fuck tall poppies, like, I think I identify with what he said really a lot. Growing up in Invercargill, especially playing football, like that's an easy target. Like I said, when I came up here and Di Headwood like gives me shit about being from Invercargill, I was like, yeah man, exactly right. Like we're conservative thinking, we're narrow thinking, like and when you're trying to be elite and people, you know, I came from the only person from my school to go to my high school. My dad was the teacher there, so I like knew half the teachers there. I was already in like Southland football teams. As I said, I'd already gone to Southland swimming, and I rock up there, get into the top band class, and people were like, "Who's this cunt?" You know, and you're like, "Well, I'm me, and how about you come with me?" You know, and I've been really lucky that met people that are willing to go with me. I've got like this really awesome group of friends that they also want to drive forward and be awesome. And so I think that we need to behave in the way that we want to be treated. Just like when it comes to in your head, you should behave how you would treat other people. You know, that's what psychotherapy was all about. Like, treat yourself how you would treat to other people, but also actually follow through with how you think you should treat other people, you know. And that means that if you and yourself want to achieve great things and someone comes to you and says, I want to achieve great things, you should be like, sweet, let's do it. How do we do it? And then they might, you know, think about it like there's that rising tide lifts all ships type of stuff. Like you can live that, you know. You can, if you're helping your friends out, they'll help you out, you know. So many times we want to slander someone down, you know. We want to say that, you know, so and so's shit, you know, Izzy's arrogant. Like, he's allowed to be. He's the undefeated champion of the world. He's the style bender, like, man. And support that. As I said, he wins, we win. He's putting New Zealand on the map. That's what I wanted to be, an Olympian or you know, world beater. I want to put New Zealand on the map. You know, I want to put Southland on the map. I want to put Invercargill on the map. You know, growing up with people like Eddie Dawkins and Jaden Uru and Nathan Cohen and Storm Uru, you know, getting to meet Tom Walsh, you know, playing rugby with Sam Dixon and Amanaki Nicole. You're like, these people are awesome, you know. They are so awesome. They are so dedicated. It's like I got to house sit for Tom Walsh, and like seeing what that guy does, it's no wonder that he's like one of the top 3 shot putters in the world. You know, he can launch this little piece of steel, and it's just like, holy shit. And then you go like pick it up, you're like, whoa. You see him in the gym, and you're like, whoa, you know, that's awesome. He's the man, you know. And we need to be like, whoa, awesome, you're the man, to everyone that we come in contact and be friends with, and to ourselves as well. So yeah, that's what I'd love to see from New Zealand, that get rid of that tall poppy crap. You know, we've all experienced it, we all harbour it, we all do it to ourselves. Let's shift the needle on that one and get rid of it. Yeah, let's beat the Aussies at something.
Yeah,
and the Poms, you know, that's where we get it all from, those Aussies and Poms.
But no, really love to see, bro. That's a really good point. Oh, thank you for saying that.
No worries.
Especially with, don't be so harsh on yourself.
Yeah.
I want to say, and I want to do a little fun quick fire question.
Oof.
Okay, go-to song when you're working out.
Oh, at the moment it's Lee Matthews, eh?
Yeah.
Or well, my ultra marathon was on, or training for that. It was Rio by Netsky, but yeah. Lee Matthews at the moment's my like start off. COVID. Oh yeah, gosh, I've got a playlist, of course. Yeah, jeez.
Love that, bro. Well, thank you again for taking the trip and stopping in to have a chat, brother. Really,
it's been awesome, man.
Cheers, brother. Meet you in person,
yeah, well,
bro.
Good.
As always, I love you guys very much. I'll put all of Ryan's tags down in the description there. Go check him out. Show him some of the HHT love and show him some appreciation. As always, do what makes you happy. Do what you know is right, and do what you need to do for yourself. Until next week, stay safe.
Love is lost, but you found out the truth be told, that's the truth and that's no doubt.